have not even an hour to close everything and summarize. And
So this is your part now?
Wait, not
Okay.
yet, no.
Okay, because I have a question, Marta.
Yes, please.
What the fuck are we doing here?
Thank you for this question. What we were doing here, as you may have noticed by now, was formation of something that when we came here, it wasn't there, and when we leave, it hopefully does exist. So to experience it a little bit more, I would like to ask you to, you remember we were speaking about those self-identity, self-referential, constructed, whatever you want to call it, that in thinking it's sometimes useful to be able to differentiate yourself from or transcend or whatever the activity. So it's the individual selves. So what I would like to ask you to do now is just forget about those. Kind of do the motion you need, either like go beyond or burn it or explode it or just hang it somewhere on the wall. It's not so useful anymore if you just get rid of those. For a moment, we'll go back to that. And what we are becoming now is a little bit more complicated creature, which is some kind of emerging entity, which even does have a name already. It's that school, Montparnasse initiative. So can you feel it? Changing the body shape and the body thinking in that shape is somehow different. I don't know. Does it have veins? Does it have bones? Does it have skin or hair? How you feel it and how you experience it, it's kind of emerging it. So what sound does it make as an organism? Can you hear it? This is very interesting.
Thank you for sharing, Ivona.
But do you want us to?
We are that. We are together. We are
participate?
that. Can you for a moment imagine or find this part in yourself which is a part of that organism and not so much you.
So it's time for voices now?
Let's hear it. Maybe it has something more to say than just single
Just
bit.
the beginning of the voice.
Okay. Let's listen.
Let's start.
It was very silent.
Sorry. This night. It's like anal.
Too much speed yesterday.
Okay, creature. So I will be now speaking to you, to this entity that we've just heard. It's quite a very quiet entity, isn't it? It's kind of shy, and sort of not really.
Not yet born.
Louder.
Somehow alive, but very
Yeah.
somewhere in the background. Hiding. I don't know, timid. So the question to you, that thing that we've heard is, what questions people that you need that answer to be provided by for you to grow and be stronger and be bolder and be maybe louder, maybe whatever is the dimension you wish to strengthen as well. And I know it's not exactly that we have a mouth that can speak, so we'll kind of channel it, okay? So my request to you, and we need a part of this organism which is very fast in handwriting.
Gabi.
And in English.
And in English, if you could just note the questions, okay? The whiteboard is taken, and we will address those questions. My request to you is just for each person to ask the question on completely behalf of that thing we've heard, that it requires an answer and won't leave this room if it hasn't been answered. Okay? What is the question it needs? Because otherwise it will just and die here. Okay? What is the question? And we need to hear it. Please ask the question and tell us who are the people who should answer this question. So this is take a moment, like half a minute, think about it. No people, the people here. If they are outside, they kind of will be difficult. Who might call them? But
Somehow they are not here.
Somehow, in this if it's about to die, it's urgent. So so let's feed it with the answers. But first, let's ask the questions. Okay, think a little bit about it. Like,
Yeah.
Can you repeat your first question?
What questions you desperately need an answer to, and from whom the answer should come, such that if there is no answer, you'll just...
Yeah, it doesn't happen. Okay.
Can we speak up or should we first?
Let's think for a while, and we will know the questions, and then we will, like, one by one, address them. Are you ready? Okay. So let's go on. And first, let's ask the questions, know them, and then we'll talk about it, and we'll feed the thing with the answers. It's
Okay.
Stefan?
Is this school significantly different from other schools?
Who should answer?
Rory.
Like no?
No. We are in a moment. Let's take the questions first.
Do you want me to record the answers also?
No. We will record the videos, but just note and who should answer also. Please take it. Okay.
There's one question per person.
Yes. Go on. Gita?
Where are we headed globally? As a question on a website to answer by everybody who likes.
To be answered by everybody who wants to answer.
Yes.
Okay.
I reply in terms of I am the creature. Who am I here for? Who wants me to survive or to grow or to thrive? In terms of ikigai, it could be, does the world need me? And will the world be ready to support me? And the question is to be answered by us and by the people around us, our stakeholders.
But by us, you mean everybody should speak, or?
Now today could be.
Yeah, pick one.
Pick one. I think you.
Okay. What was the question?
Who wants me to survive, to grow, and to thrive?
Okay. Kevin?
Pass up. Writing and thinking don't go long form.
Multitasking.
What age is the creature? Like, is it about to grow, or is it a grown-up person?
It's a baby.
It's a question.
She hasn't assigned you to answer.
Several people, so maybe Stefan.
I have to pass.
How it stay alive? Money, food, energy.
The question was how to stay alive?
How it stay, or how if it's your
How
if
will I
it's the
survive?
creature.
How
My question
do I
is, why
stay
should
alive?
How it stay alive, but in terms of food, energy, the motivation or whatever, and I would like A to answer.
Okay. Okay. Rob?
How do we ensure the quality of the school? And I would like to ask Kevin to answer it.
Let's slow down.
Helen. You said Ellen or
No, we're good.
Kevin.
Kevin, yeah?
Ah,
Okay.
Kevin. Kevin, I'm sorry.
Alan?
How will we co-create the next steps to be coherent? And I would like you to answer.
Who's you? Sorry.
Marta.
Now is
That
the
was
moment.
yes. As a creature, I need fertility. So how will I keep my fertility on the rise? And I want Kadem to answer.
Interference, right?
Okay.
You gotta ask her out first.
Actually, I had the same question. How do I replicate? And look at me, then you're gonna answer.
Okay, no, I have no question.
Okay. So shall we?
Marta, do you have a question?
What is the next step? The next step. What step?
Who you want to answer?
Who I want to answer is Kala.
Nobody wants my opinion.
So-
My question is, how do you grow the best beard? And I want Balthazar. And maybe Stephanie too. I'm a little jealous.
The best
I understand.
Beard.
And hair.
So this is what the beast wants.
That's the very
This was a
interesting
bestial question.
That's a symbolic one. I see.
Alright, so
And it
I,
gives,
Wisdom.
and it gives us authority, doesn't it?
Look at the authority over here. It's a little.
Very interesting one.
so I'll add a question now that I've thought, luckily with the joking around, is like how does the creature recreate its environment? How do we recreate what happened here when you don't have the same group and expertise and dynamics, because every group's different? Obviously Balthazar, because he's very upset he hasn't gotten the answer yet. Okay, so the first
I'm
one.
upset also that Ivona is not answering. So I want the question.
I'm absolutely fine without question, even without question.
So you know what? I transferred my question of fertility to you.
I'm okay. You're possessing it.
Okay, good.
Okay, so the first one. Is the school significantly different from other schools? Rolf is responsible for answering. Yeah?
So you take the director?
So far, I would say no. I mean, we have an interesting goal. and also some new approaches, but there are many initiatives which want to support people in their thinking, but many fail because the quality of them is not good enough, or because they don't do enough efforts or whatsoever. So I hope it will change, but at the moment, no.
Do we ask for examples so that we can improve, or do we leave this anonymous?
Or leave it anonymous?
I know a few, but I can't name them at the moment.
Okay.
But
Or
I
you
think
could-
if we have a closer look and do some research, we will find more than enough.
Okay, but you can maybe, if you have things to say personally to some of us about.
No.
No, but because I think it's important, to me, it seems, because didn't you say that the quality of some of the interventions were not good?
No, some of the
No,
other
this is
schools-
not what it said.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you were talking about the quality of some of the interventions.
No, this was a question I gave someone else. So.
That's, I have to answer that one.
So what you said was that it's not so different or not different at all from other
Initiative.
schools or initiatives, even though the aim is interesting, because of the not necessarily enough or sufficient level of engagement. Yes, this is what you're saying?
No, quality.
Quality. It's not engagement,
Quality
it's
of
quality.
engagement, even of luck, of possibilities. I mean, it comes all together.
Of other schools.
Yeah, sooner or later, for example, it's necessary to get a good funding, and for this you need to be good in politics and so on. But even at the first stages where, for example, you need some quality and where you need an elaborated plan of what you are doing and how do you want to sell it to someone, you have to figure all this stuff out.
No, but the question, before we go to this level of do we have cards and so on, the question is asked here, within this week, if it managed to provide, create, open something which is different from other schools, like a difference that you see as relevant or not. It may say the same answer, but just to clarify
He
the
said
question.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, next one. Where are we headed globally? Everybody who wants to.
I think this is not that much important because we are distributed and wherever we have the opportunity. That means, for example, if we have 3 universities where we have master students, for example, and even some other schools or initiatives, then we are headed there, and once in a year or whenever we want to, we can meet us
That's
wherever we
not what
want.
I meant. Yeah, your question was not
I-
correct. It's not, where is humanity headed? Is that what you're?
Yes,
Oh,
really,
not
I
the
meant,
school?
I meant
Or
what
you meant the school or the?
I think if this
Humanity.
school wants to be extraordinary and reach
Okay.
its goal, like Wolf already said, I think a very important question to answer the question if it can survive is the question, where are we headed globally? And I think we don't know this. The answer to We this. is
We as a school?
humankind.
everybody, yes.
Humankind.
Yes,
Where
I
is
think-
humankind
I
headed?
think we are on a point, on a breaking point. We've entered a new era, and I think this is to me it's a pressing question to be answered in order to find out what can a thinking school actually deliver.
Can I answer by another question?
Of course.
Saying that, well, maybe this depends or is related to the way we can scale and to the way we can reach a critical mass of people so that it can actually have critical impact and like network effect scale.
I think so. Huge question. I think so.
Yeah.
There are, as Rolf said, many thinking schools, and yes, I think so. It's a question of how much complexity we can work with. We can, and in order to find out what is really actually needed right now. I think this is a creature that needs to know where it is needed in order to survive.
You know, if we think in dichotomies, I think that the future holds two options. One, it's like a utopian technological era of uplifting and augmentation and improvement. And the other one is like going back to nature, to old tradition, to very conservative. But in each option, I see a necessity for a school of thinking. One is to keep being on the edge of the technological era and where to direct, and the other one, in the other dimension, is to be a beacon in the darkness of society. So another way, a school of thinking is a necessary thing.
Yes.
My thought is about, which I'm a little bit ashamed I'm saying that, it's about preventing some things. It's about, having somehow, having in mind that maybe a little bit more of thinking may be useful to not to go too far with some, one-way understanding of stuff. So for me, it's also about, has to do with this question when we aim. But how, if there's more people who are thoughtful around it, that maybe this direction may be a little bit. Yeah, I'm really ashamed with this big kind of,
I will answer also. From a very different perspective, which is a perspective of availability. I think that in a fashion which at the moment it's a bit independent from which path exactly, I see that my mind creates a lot of forms when I project in the future. So at the moment I'm staying here. I believe that notwithstanding the future, we are having, as of today, at least in this part of the world, a level of availability of time, resources, materials, which was never the case, and communication and collaboration and experience and we are as if taking for granted that we know what to do with it. Yes. That we know how to think it, and we know how to grow with it, and we know how to make it into something, and I do not really take it for granted. I think there is some kind of growth that has to happen there. Growth in terms of thought process, thinking capabilities, communication, clarity, lucidity, intention. And this is where I see the school of thought, in matching the availability without taking it for, if we got here, it means we've got what it takes to think it. We don't.
It also, I think, relates to what Kevin said about allocation of resources, somehow. That the resources are not distributed in a correct way. We were talking about you're not sure that we are able to address a certain number of things, and I'm saying that the question of the distribution of resources to put into thinking or new solutions is maybe not, also comes into account, even if this is not what you were saying.
I think it, in some way comes down to, the organizational group part, I think, is nice, but it still builds on a foundation of individuals being self-aware. If you have a group that isn't that way, I don't know how you study group dynamics in a useful way that can possibly like resolve or make them better. And so I think back to what Verona said and what was just said about how do you, if we're saying that the future is unknown, because it is, and there are endless possibilities for how it could go, but we do know that things are changing very rapidly. There's limited amount of resources, time, whatever. People have to be able to cope with that, and the only way to do that is you can't have a fixed mindset and a fixed mental model. Like, you have to have more than one available to yourself, or you go crazy. There was a whole study done around empathy and how the question was, are people lacking empathy today? And that wasn't the right framing and the right answer. The challenge was humans were never meant to empathize on the scale at which we're required to do now because of the amount of information and connectivity and everything. So how do people deal with that? And the only way you move an organization forward or a society forward is through the individual first and build up. And so I see that as the need for the school, right? Is like individuals have to be able to deal with these things and these competing demands of the uncertainty and unknown, and the only thing certain is change. Coping with that is really, really critical, and we're seeing a challenge with that across the world. If you look at the various challenges that people are seeing, whether you talk about the changing tides in energy. I was talking about, like, in the United States, how employment is occurring, the battles that are occurring there, the migration crisis. Like, all of these things are change, and you can view them as a threat, and you can lock in and say, like, this is my view of the world, or you can adapt. Because if you don't want to adapt, it's still happening anyway.
If I could stress, I really like this feeling with unknown. Because I think that what we experience, or at least what I experience here, how the perception and how thinking is a way of dealing with it. And I think that it was a wonderful description of the moment of the I don't know, life or world which is really facing that. Shall we move on?
Yep. So the next one's for you, Marta. Who am I here for? Does the world need me? And will the world support me?
It's the question from the thing. My answer is that what the school is like, who the school is for the human being. Starting with, and we can start with drawing an ideal target group with some demographical description and characteristics and presumed needs and so on. But if we draw such a picture, for me, it's not a human being. It's a social construct, which is already a highly compressed description of what society has produced as a coherent group because of its internal composition. So you have professions, you have paradigms, you have but market needs, whatever you line of conceptualization you take, you will come up with this image of somebody, and you will derive the idea of the needs of that somebody, collective somebody, from that description. And for me, if you take society, every small social system responds to those descriptions in other social systems. It's interrelating. This group, this entity is responding to those entities producing those and those characteristics and those needs and deficiencies. It's a game between social entities and their self-description. And for me, if we are about to produce the next such thing, let's go home. Let's just go home. It doesn't make. It's so many of them, and they're so stupid that I don't want to participate in anything like that. If we are not able to enrich the human being, happening to be involved in whatever activity there is, in a way that in the end that human being will be stronger in its own thinking while being engaged in whatever the person is engaged in, then that's not just a school of thinking. It's just a school of processing information in a compressed and self-organized and collective, stupid way. If that's thinking, it's a thinking of the non-predefined human being, and we do have access, and we can easily look into the needs of that being because we happen to be one of them. So whatever resonates in you, in what we are trying to do, whatever inspires you in what we are doing, whatever excites you and gives you hope in it, this is what we want to enhance. And this is, for me, the difference we want to build upon. So hence the prototyping, and hence participating in it, and so on. So I know there is this way of describing what we are and what we are, but it's description. It's already algorithmic. Like for me, it's already processing and not particularly advanced thinking, like being in your body, in your emotions, in your needs, whatever we have this, advanced thinker is doing simultaneously. And for that, there must be the thinker. So I think the creature is for that entity.
Creating some literacy. Yeah?
Strengthening the capacity for thinking, which isn't pre-thought and pre-packaged and predefined by whatever characteristic is provided by larger societal composition, something like that.
Maybe one line that can be on the same, it's that it can enhance or strengthen the inner discourse, because unless this will happen, the human is going to be spiritually dead in a number of years.
And if it doesn't happen, if strengthening doesn't happen, we'll become more and more processors of the next layers of reality, which are more and more algorithmic. So this is a choice, and this is to me this is the question where we are headed, and what game we are playing with our activity. Can we support the human and strengthen the human in this game?
Okay. Next one is for Seifen. What age is the creator?
The creator?
The creature.
The creature.
The creator.
The creator of
The creators
creature?
are
Okay, the
very old,
creature.
like very old creatures.
The creator has a bird.
Always a bird.
The creator
Creature is always 25 years old and never ages.
What age is the creature?
Okay, so... Okay, I will take this as a metaphor. And then you have a different kind of needs and a different kind of approaches to life of the creature. So I think from the beginning, if we are a baby, we are a kind of baby giraffe, already on our legs. Okay, we don't really...
Quite silent, but standing.
Yeah. And
Baby giraffe. And a giraffe has a big heart. Maybe two.
two.
I have to check.
Oh,
Biggest
this is
one.
nice.
I'm not sure.
Something with the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it has a very, very long neck to be pumped. I think we have some way to maturity. We're not there. We're not there. I think we are very teenagery in the עוצמה, איך אומרים?
Power.
No, it's not power, it's daring. כזה provocative daring, you know? Teenagers' mind are built to explore the over the edge, you know? So we are there. We also have a lot of pruning to do, which we did not do yet. Pruning, it's like the...
Cutting the head of the giraffe? No.
No! It's so cruel! No, pruning is from the brain. It's like when you have to sculpt the connections and make them sharper and make them faster for a more lucid kind of thinking. So we are a teenager giraffe. I think.
It's a nice picture.
Next question is for Gael. How does it stay alive and survive?
Thank
It's
you.
a big
Balthazar.
clothes, you know.
Yeah.
And you can move
How does it stay alive? Correct?
Yeah.
Well, like in a physical body, I guess. The brain might be dead, but the heart needs to beat. So I'm feeling inspired.
Yeah, of course. With the pruning of the giraffe.
Exactly. Meaning that we do have to find somehow some. Can you say that in English? Cohérence cardiaque.
Cardiac coherency.
Thank you.
Is there such a...
There's no
There is? No?
Okay. Okay. Cardiac
Does
coherency.
it mean
Valid?
concordance of heartbeat or no?
I would say an alignment between thoughts, heart, and emotions. If we can sustain that, reach that level, and sustain that over time, I think this is the key success, the key for the success of the school. And especially if we want to emulate that model in different contexts. So we need to get to the very essence, to the core of what it might be. And as we have discovered, the intention was to create a school around pure thought, the method of thinking. And by doing, we just realized that it includes other components as well. We've been like playing around, we've been exploring emotions, we've been exploring group dynamics and stuff like that. It has to do with how we interact with the other. So it's not just like a individual process, but it's deeper than that. And what my personal takeaway is that whenever you with a group of people, you can never be 100% in sync with the other. So from time to time you just like some aspect of the other, but from time to time you dislike the aspect of the other. And I could see in your facial expressions that when somebody said something, the other was like, you know. I captured that every day, all the time. Today we are just much more in sync altogether. So I guess we all made some work on ourselves, and I think that's again the key of success of the school here for the future and for other replicated schools elsewhere. Thank you, Walter.
Now it goes back to you,
So the next
the
one
director.
is for me, how do we ensure the quality of the school? So part of that will be answered by Balthazar as the last part, which I think is really important of like how do you recreate this environment? How do you create the co-learning that occurs beyond just an instructor telling you what to do? To me, one of the really interesting pieces of why this is different than other ones I have been a part of is because everyone that would be teaching future iterations to students that weren't here were collectively here hearing each other talk.
So how these have typically occurred in the ones that I have been involved with is you bring the individual in, they come and talk to students who have talked to other people. The student will raise their hand and say, I heard this the other day. And the professor has no context for that. It's basically like, well, that's really stupid because that contradicts what I'm talking about, and whoever told you that was wrong. And so there's no actual coherence of like carrying things forth. So for me, the quality that occurs, a quality occurs by actually having a connected group of people that are leading this, that are willing to have differences, but also understand what the other ones are discussing and what has been discussed before, and be able to build on rather than tear down. And by doing that, you create something a lot more interesting, a lot more coherent for a student than you do by just having a bunch of separate people that view their part as an independent piece. If they see how they're part of the collective, I think it changes it a lot. And the fact that you actually know potentially who is the person actually delivering that previously even builds that additional trust and respect that would be there that potentially wouldn't if I had no idea who was teaching systems thinking before, but that person sounds crazy and was wrong. So that's part of it. The other part actually goes back to to do that, I think it has to be bigger than this room because people's lives change and everything changes, which means if you only have one systems thinker to teach systems thinking, if that was going to be a module, you need 3, 4, 5 of them, like you need a bench of people to be able to do so. But the other piece that I think which retains its quality goes back to the age. Because I would say the age should never be greater than 7. Because you should always be curious and trying to figure out the world, which means there should never be a maturity of this is what we are and we're mature and we have a full understanding of what we need to do and this is what we're going to deliver. It should always be learning, it should always be self-reflective, and it should always be willing to grow and experience new things. And if that means a new field is coming in or there's a new dynamic that is occurring within these communities of practice, like that needs to ingrain itself within the school as well. So if you're trying to build up, especially into teenager and then adulthood, you start feeling like you have some grasp of something on the world, and a 7-year-old just takes everything for granted that like this is how it is and wants to understand why this is how it is rather than saying like this is how it should be. And so I think that's how you keep up the quality is you evolve with it.
A younger giraffe.
Yes, a younger giraffe.
Like a 5
eternally.
Like a baby
Yes,
giraffe.
it just stays permanently as a baby giraffe.
young and stupid.
We are going to buy her a choo-choo.
The stupid school of thinking.
Okay, so the next one is for Marta. Co-create next steps to be coherent.
Okay.
How will we?
How will we?
How will we co-create the next steps to be coherent? It's very, very, very easy to create something coherent when you are not co-creating. When you are just, sitting with a piece of paper and you have this bright idea and you delineate it and that's it. And it's super coherent because it's all in your mind. Unless your mind isn't coherent, then nothing can help. But if it is, and the typical tendency is to cohere and not to decohere, it's something that happens more often than not, and in my perception, my personal perception, too fast and too permanent, that you have this coherent thing that then you glue yourself to, and that's it, and this is your safety of it. So yes, there needs to be coherence, and I think what is nice about the coherence that is being co-created, if it's being co-created, is that it takes longer time to do it. And it takes consideration, and it takes thinking, and it takes distributed thinking, and it takes thinking in yourself and in conversation with others. So the coherence, if we are able to it's time. If we are able to withstand this pressure, coherence versus non-coherence, and take it a little bit slower than maybe we would like to jump on, I believe the quality of what will cohere up will be higher. But then, of course, to do something in the world, to deliver something to students, to sell a program to the participants, to organizations, to universities, and so on, it has to have some
The
form.
face of coherence.
It has to be coherent, like in the sense of its internal quality, which is felt and it's experienced as something reliable and trustworthy, and something that people allow themselves to be a part of, and with trust. So, to me, what we could do to achieve that is to take next initiatives, next actions, and do it again in collaboration towards a specific aim or intention that we have. If today or if this week was about let's see what we have and let's make sense of it together and maintain this sort of coherence on a social, emotional, and partly intellectual level, that we will see, we will understand each other, we will know what we have here to work with. Take actions that will come. For me personally, what I want to do, and of course everybody is welcome to do something, and if you have a project you want to deliver, submit somewhere, or make a part of this initiative, just do, and just take a lead in it and do it. For me, what I want to do is, for sure, and this is a plan minimum, to develop this description for the for the proposal, which would allow the school to start up for 5 or 6 years. I don't remember exactly. I think it's 6 years in multiple locations, which would be a collaborative project and engaging everybody in a way everybody wants to be engaged. So and spreading from there. This is one step. And again, you know how writing of proposals or the development of proposals is usually done. It's usually done that you have 3 or 4 Skype collective meetings, and you have this file, and you have the people typing in. I think our coherence to start writing or start even dividing the work that has to be put in that file is much higher than if we're just writing the proposal as usually written. Some other ideas, Stefan had a few groups in mind in his own ecosystem that would be or are or will be interested in having more not commercial, but I don't know what the right word is, tailored program for their needs. So again, when we are developing the proposal, professional group, like tailored for profession, like for designers, for engineers, and for system sciences students. So this would be 3 different angles, and again, we will need to collaborate to develop, describe, and then market, and then eventually, hopefully, teach those kinds of activities. So this coherence, I believe, should be building up on the level of particular actions that we'll be now taking. On the institutional, on a more like institutionalized level, I think what would be good is to formalize the initiative in the form of something like a consortium where all institutions that we want to engage in will be part of this consortium, because it will be then easier to engage them in. It will be stronger for the proposal, stronger for whatever interfacing with other social entities and so on. So just as we were gradually cohering here for a purpose that we had here, we'll need to be doing that collaboratively and in a more difficult manner, because it will be distributed, it will be online, it will be Skype, it will be Slack, and so on. But then this is
co-created.
Yeah.
So the next question I'm going to combine, because they're very related, which is how do I keep fertility and how do I replicate? And that's Cadell and Stefan. Cadell, do you want to go first?
How do you keep fertility? Well,
Either than growing beard.
I mean, I've heard it helps if you have like an ice pack. Like you just leave it there. Just like not for too long. Like.
Okay, now I get it.
You know, but I mean, time is also irreversible. So, you know, when you get to a certain age, it's going to start breaking down for you.
Better buy a ring.
What do you? I don't understand the question. I don't understand the question, to be honest. I don't understand the question. What do you mean by fertility?
Reproduce
It's
itself.
a
How can the
serious
school
serious
reproduce
question.
itself?
How do I keep fertility?
How can the school reproduce itself? This school
Or
reproduce itself? Or
continue
create?
to, or continue to create new thoughts and remain
Remain on the
Yeah,
edge.
remain on the edge and
Coming with
not
fresh concepts.
Then it's related to quality.
I think the more I